Welcome, friends, to Crazy Women Country, where women's voices matter. We bring you the greatest female voices in the music industry, from the artists, songwriters, and producers, to managers and executives, and all the women who make the music industry what it is today. Thank you for joining us. Welcome, friends, to another episode of Crazy Women Country. I'm Donna, and today I have a special guest, Miss Luanne Hunt. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, doing real great, and I'm happy to be here, Donna. Thank you.
Well, I'm happy that you're here. And just full disclosure, we both found out that we are both in Florida, which is fun and exciting because, usually we're interviewing people all over the place. So it's crazy that we're both in the same state at the same time.
I know.
Absolutely. Well, I promised not to ask too many difficult questions, but I will start off with one difficult question. So tell our listeners, who is Luanne Hunt?
It's interesting that you're asking me that because I'm working on a documentary about my life. I just celebrated 30 years in the music business, and I've released 24 albums. And I started out using the internet tools long before most, 30 years ago. So in all of the reflecting and everything and being on shows like yours, I've kind of realized that I'm sort of an elder in the business, and it's made me think a lot about what qualities that I have that caused me to be here in the first place, because not many people make it 30 years, especially as an independent artist. But I'm very tenacious, and I have a harrowing story about the way I was treated as a child and the way that I was ridiculed and not supported in what I wanted to do. And yet somehow I barreled through that, and I never lost sight of what I knew was my path. So I guess the best way to say who I am is that person who just doesn't give up, that person who wants to be a champion of life and keeps going in the face of every single obstacle put before her. So
I love that. That's the best description, for sure.
thank you.
I think that's one thing that people forget about is everyone comes from someplace, and not everyone has an easy road, and some people are more difficult than others. And just to give everyone grace in life, because you never know what someone's been through or gone through, and
It's true. And we're here to inspire one another, I believe.
Agree, 100%. Definitely. And that's definitely a feat to be in the industry that long and independent, and just because that's one thing, independent artists have to make their own way and do everything on their own. I hate to say that way, but literally we have some help along the way. I'm sure you have some help along the way and stuff, but I'm sure 90% of everything you've done was you've had to do it on your own. You built up that, people around you to help you and things like that. And so
I wear every hat. So.
Oh, so speaking of 24 albums, we're here to talk about the new album coming out. So Miles and Memories, tell me, what does this album mean to you as a whole?
This album is a way to sort of circle back to the beginnings of my career when I was really into folk music, and folk music is my first love, hands down. And I wanted to make an album of folk songs, but yet also bring in some of the modern sensibilities to these pieces of music, because I've grown as an artist so much over the years, and I've continued to expand my productions in all kinds of ways, and I'm very eclectic in what I like. So I wanted to keep it at its base of folk, but then also, like I said, bring in things that made it sound up to date, I guess. So it didn't sound too folky. Like, we've been going to folk festivals, listening to new artists, and a lot of that stuff, it's folk, you know what I mean? It's really old fashioned. And I don't want to be that old fashioned. You know what I'm saying? Because I want to progress. So I think Miles and Memories reflects that. And also just reflects my journey as a songwriter and the chances I've taken with writing songs and the different styles and themes and everything. So it's kind of exciting to listen to this project and say, you know, gosh, I remember when I was first writing songs, and here's where I've come to. So, and that's just through doing it over and over and over and over again. So
That is really cool. And the fact that you have reached other areas, like you've gone more into rock and things, you can hear that throughout, you know, your albums and just your whole journey as an artist. And it's just amazing. Now, off this, I know there's one we were going to talk about, the Vice. Tell me a little bit about the story of the Vice and what it means to you and why it's important to listeners.
well, in 94, my late husband, Steve, he started writing songs, and he wasn't a songwriter, but he started writing songs. It was really a strange thing. But after he wrote a whole bunch of them, we decided to go into the studio and record a few of them anyway. And there was a song that he wrote called He's in Paradise with a Pair of Dice. And it sounds like a novelty song. It's kind of got like this crazy little title, but I recorded it, and it actually was my favorite one on the whole demo album that I did. And even when he first sang it to me, I thought that song's a masterpiece, you know, even though it has a kind of a novelty sounding title. But I never forgot that song, and I always wanted to re-record it and make it more palatable to people. You know what I'm saying? So that they wouldn't think that it was just some goofy song. So I decided, because I was doing my 30th album, that I should do a song from that very first demo album. And I chose this song, He's in Paradise with Paradise. But I realized I wanted to change the title to The Vice. And I worked on the lyrics to, in a way, give them a more serious tone and to help people feel more empathy toward the character in the song. Because it was serious, but I think sometimes when you wrap something in something like a novelty piece of music, then people aren't going to get the message. So I thought, you know, this has to be a little bit more visual, and we have to get more insight into this guy. So with the production, all I have on there is a solo piano and a classical violin, and it just sets a mood and brings out the story so amazing. And I don't think anybody now would ever think it was a novelty song. You know, I kept the same hook, but I just changed the title. So I'm really proud of it. And I think my late husband would just be over the moon at the way it turned out. And it's a way for me to honor him too, because he's the one that started out with the songwriting and got me on my way. Because if I hadn't had his original songs, I don't know where I'd be right now. So.
Oh, that is so awesome. Definitely. I mean, that is just such a great full circle moment. I think that just brings that whole the storytelling of it, you know, and that's one thing that I love about your music is there's a lot of storytelling in it, you know, and it's just, you know, classic singer-songwriter. That's someone I've always loved in when I listen to music and things like that. And that's why I truly appreciate your music.
Thank you.
So would you like to do our 13 crazy questions?
Sure.
I promise we won't get arrested, at least not yet.
Okay.
Okay. Tell me, do you have any guilty pleasure music? And if so, what is it?
I really like hard rock, especially some of the 90s hard rock. And I got really, no, I'm not a Christian, but I used to be. But I love this group DC Talk from the 90s. And I mean, they had this album called Jesus Freak, and I used to listen to that over and over and over. It's so cool. I mean, it's got rap, it's got hard rock, it's got all this crazy sound effects, and it's wild. It's like it takes you on an adventure. And I thought it was brilliant, and I thought the production was off the charts, you know, good. So stuff like that just is different and makes you feel like you can just let loose, you know, when you listen to it. Because I would play it when I was driving around in the car, just be singing along, and it was so fun, you know.
Absolutely. And I think anything that's good music, doesn't matter what it is. It's yeah, absolutely. We'll finish this line. Today, my favorite song is.
You're the Cat by Al Stewart.
That's a great one. Oh, can you tell me the best concert or top two concerts you've ever attended?
Oh yeah. One was I got to see Bruce Springsteen at the LA Coliseum back in the early 80s. He played for 5 hours. I mean, it was unbelievable because I used to live in California. It was just mind-blowingly good. And I really wasn't that much of a fan, but a friend of mine had tickets and we went and it was like, oh my gosh, we didn't want it to end. So that one, and then I saw Jimmy Buffett right around that same time period at the Greek Theater in LA. And that was the first time I had ever seen him. And it was just pure magic. I've never forgotten either one of those shows.
Those are awesome. Definitely. Now, musically, who would you currently recommend? Maybe some friends or some people that may not be well known, or maybe even some well known that people may not know.
One of my favorite artists is a gentleman by the name of Daryl Purpose. He's a folk artist and he's been around for a long time, but man, is he good. And he's never really gotten that widespread recognition. But I mean, I just think he's brilliant. The first time I heard his music, I was just like lost, in it because it was so beautiful. And he writes such great songs and they have meaning. They're not just a bunch of throwaway lines, those stories are deep. And so, yeah, I would definitely recommend him.
Great. We're going to check him out. If after the interview, everyone go check him out. Not yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love great music, storytelling, as I mentioned earlier. That's one thing that I always seek out artists, and most of the artists I seek out or that I love are not on radio. Like I hate to say that, but they're not on radio. Most of them won't be on radio. I mean, even some of the ones that have more notoriety, have signed contracts, things like that may be bigger artists. Most of them still aren't played on the radio, but I digress. It's just
Yeah.
always good to have good references and learn of good music. So thank you for the recommendation.
You're welcome.
Tell me something on your bucket list.
There's a lot of things, but I want to go hot air ballooning. I've never done it. And, my late husband, he would never do it with me because he didn't like heights. But my fiance, Jim, he's up for it. And they have it some places here in Florida, I understand, but we just have to figure it out. But once we do, we'll go because I've wanted to do that for a long time.
Sounds like fun. I have to admit, a couple of years ago, I got to go to the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta for the first time. That was something. I mean, if you've ever had a chance to be there in the first week of October, it's usually, I do it, and go up and they have the sunrise and the sunset balloon things you can do and all kinds of. We haven't gone up. I haven't gone up. I haven't gotten to that level of overcoming fear, if you will. But I mean, just seeing that glow and it was just amazing. So. If they made a movie about your life tomorrow, who would you want to play you?
Good question. You think of all the different actresses out there. I think maybe somebody like Kate Hudson, because I think everything I've seen her in, she has a lot of depth to her acting. And I think just off the top of my head, I think she would be a very good person to play me. And I think, she can kind of go through the time. She can look real young or, she can go through the age spans and be believable. But I always loved her acting anyway.
I think that's a great pick. So, do you have a game plan for the zombie apocalypse?
I haven't thought of that yet. I haven't decided that we were going to build a bunker or anything like that in the backyard. So, but maybe I should get to it if it's coming up soon.
Yeah, I don't have any quantifying data on it, but I do know someone from Canada told me that they don't like snow because they've never seen zombie movies or zombies in snow. So Maybe we'll all just move to the Canadian mountains, Rockies or something. I
Yeah,
don't know.
sounds like a plan.
Okay, I'll pick you up on the way out.
Yeah.
um, Tell me something you would never do.
That's a good question. Something I never even thought of. I wouldn't eat a hot dog. I can tell you that. Definitely wouldn't eat a hot dog.
Oh, okay, well, hypothetically, if I called you and said, "Hey, I have a dead body I need to hide. Do you know a good place?"
Well, a lot of people thought that my maiden name is Gambo, and a lot of people thought my father was in the mafia. So I'm sure, I could make a few calls and find out where the good places are.
Oh, all right, then I'll give you a call if I ever have a dead body. Tell me something you're afraid of.
That's another interesting question.
I go with spiders usually just because they not that I'm like outside, they're cool. Inside my house, I'm usually barefoot and then I'm like, oh my God, where'd that thing come from? Like, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I was like, do I go deep here or do I just say something silly, like, oh, I'm afraid of squirrels. I actually am afraid of squirrels. We have them
Hmm.
all over our community here and they freak me out. I mean, and they climb on our screen and I get, oh, get them down, get them down. And then sometimes we've had them get under our house. I don't know how they got under there, but oh my God.
Goodness.
Yeah, I'm deathly afraid of and I when I first moved in here, I asked the community, I said, do you guys have like a squirrel patrol where they come out once a year and the one lady goes, we don't we don't do anything to hurt the wildlife, and I'm thinking wildlife, they're like rodents, you know, but just like because I'm from California, like they were rodents out there and like wildlife, seriously. So anyway,
It is kind of funny being that's Florida. Yeah.
yeah.
No. If your life was a reality TV show, what would you call it?
That's yeah. What would I call it? Wow, that one's got me stumped. You know why? Because I'm a word person, because I was a journalist for 25 years. And so I'm always thinking of titles. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like I never thought of that, you know. I know one thing, and this is on a more serious tone, but you know, up until I met my fiance, I really kind of had to walk this path alone. I mean, my late husband was into his job, and so I was alone a lot. And one time I found out that my name, Luanne, actually means she battles alone. So I might call the reality TV show that just because I've had to do everything by myself. So
Well, that's really interesting. I love that. Okay, well, since you're into titles, I'm gonna ask this next one too. If you owned a bar or a pub or restaurant, what would you want to call it?
well, my nickname is Annie. So it would probably have something with Annie's name in it, like, Annie's Kitchen or Annie's something or other. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't know what
absolutely.
exactly, but it definitely would have my nickname in it. Annie's Hangout, who knows?
Absolutely. Oh, okay. So last difficult question. If you could meet any person, who would you want to meet and why? And it could be dead or alive, doesn't matter.
I have always wanted to meet Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. I've looked up to him since I was a kid, not because he was a singer or whatever, but because he was a producer. And really, I've been producing for a long time. And I'm all about the production when I create music. And yeah, to be able to sit down with him and talk to him about music and how it's made and the magic and everything, I think that would just be like the ultimate experience, you know?
That would definitely be cool. Well, if you do get to do that, bring me along because that sounds just like a great. I'd love to just be sitting there, a fly on the wall, and just absorb. You know?
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Okay, well, it's out in the universe, so maybe it'll happen. Maybe he'll hear it.
Yes.
Fingers crossed. So, tell me what's happening for the rest of 2024 here. Lots of good stuff. Doing more adventures, more writing, more releasing. What's happening?
I am working on my 25th album right now, and I just finished writing all the songs. So hopefully in the next month or two, I'll start getting the music together for those and probably release something after the first of the year because I have this album out now and I want to give it a chance, you know. And then I just have been asked to start a singer-songwriter showcase here in the Villages. So we have 3 shows coming up, one in June, one in August, and one in November. Just bringing in up and coming singer-songwriters, kind of like to do the Nashville listening room thing where people can come out, listen to original music, which I'm all about. So I'm going to be doing that. And then I just started working on a documentary about my life, like I had mentioned earlier. So in fact, I'm going up later this week to my hometown to start filming some scenes and things like that. So
Sounds very exciting. I can't wait for you. You have to keep us up to date and let us know what's happening with that and when that'll be released.
I will.
Absolutely. It has been a pleasure having you on today, and you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you. I really had a good time.
And thank you, friends, for joining us. Make sure you check out the links below. We'll have Luanne's website and all so that you can check out the album. But we'll see you next time here on Crazy Women Country. Have a great day. If you enjoyed today's episode of Crazy Women Country, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Be sure to click the subscribe button for new interviews weekly. And thank you, friends, for joining us today on Crazy Women Country, where women's voices matter.